You're here with us today. Our vision is outstanding life and service to God, transforming the world. We invite you to come for the word, and we know that you will stay for the kingdom. The Bridge Network City Church, Canada, is based in Vancouver at the moment, where we're starting out, and we believe so strongly in connecting to each other, to community, and of course to God. And to be a part of this, everything you need to know about how to give, how to support, how to contact us is right there on the screen in front of you. The number is 1-604-600-7940. The website is thebridgenetwork.ca. We look forward to hearing from you. We thank you so much for being part of what we're doing today. And remember, the Bridge Network City Church Canada is here just for you. God bless you.
Good morning and welcome to the Bridge Network City Church Canada. I'm Genesis, your host, and this is the Real Success Seminar. Here at the Real Success Seminar, we discuss business-related topics. And today, our speaker for this Sunday is our senior pastor, Pastor Francis Madojemu, and he'll be taking us in depth and giving us his own perspective on this theme. I urge you to pay rapt attention, and I'll be back shortly with a guest to round up.
But this morning I want to talk about something. When I was trying to share it, I was thinking, am I talking over the heads of these people? Because sometimes I kind of believe this philosophy: aim for the sky. If you miss it, you fall on the tree. But don't aim for the tree, because if you miss it, you fall on the floor. So I'm going to be talking to you about something, because we're talking about the purpose of business. And one of the biggest purpose of business from God's perspective is the creation of jobs. The problem is that people like Mrs. Oluni, maybe Pastor Dick Wanola, who employ people, it's almost as if we have minimized, you know what I mean? The impact that has on society, you know what I mean? In the creation of jobs. So I want you to listen to two perspectives. We have some legal problems with YouTube if we show full-length TED Talk. So we're just going to take an extract from from Okonjo Iweala's TED Talk, and then we're going to listen to Landa Cope. And I'm hoping by the grace of God, this time I think I start and stop in the slides. So I want to see whether that works. If we can play the Okonjo Iweala part. This is towards the end of her talk. And she's talking in a TED Talk and speaking to potential investors in Africa. Look at what she requests for. Or listen to what she requests for.
It's a 5 or a 6 or a 10 because it's a material object. Goodness is a material quality, and the goodness of God is
economies, growing, exciting economies where there's plenty of opportunity. And I want to just make one point about this investment. The best way to help Africans today is to help them to stand on their own feet. And the best way to do that is by helping create jobs. There is no issue with fighting malaria and putting money in that and saving children's lives. That's not what I'm saying. That is fine. But imagine the impact on a family. If the parents can be employed and make sure that their children go to school, that they can buy the drugs to fight the disease themselves. If we can invest in places where you yourself make money, whilst creating jobs and helping people stand on their own feet, isn't that a wonderful opportunity? Isn't that the way to go? And I want to say that some of the best people to invest in on the continent are the women. I have a CD here. I'm sorry that I didn't say anything on time. Otherwise, I would have liked you to have seen this. It says, Africa Open for Business. And this is a video that has actually won an award as the best documentary of the year. I understand that the woman who made it is going to be in Tanzania, where they're having the session in June. But it shows you Africans, and particularly African women, who against all odds have developed businesses, some of them world class. One of the women in this video, Nika Ogunlesi, making children's clothes, which she started as a hobby, and grew into a business, mixing African materials such as we have with materials from elsewhere. So she'll make a little pair of dungarees with corduroys with African material mixed in. Very creative designs. Has reached the stage where she even had an order from Walmart for 10,000 pieces. So that shows you that we have people who are capable of doing it. And the women are diligent, they are focused, they work hard. I could go on giving examples. Beatrice Gakuba of Rwanda, who opened up a flower business and is now exporting to the Dutch auction in Amsterdam each morning and is employing 200 other women and men to work with her. However, many of these are starved for capital to expand. Because nobody believes outside of our countries that we can do what is necessary. Nobody thinks in terms of a market. Nobody thinks there's opportunity. But I'm standing here saying that those who miss the boat now will miss it forever. So if you want to be in Africa, think about investing. Think about the Beatrices. Think about the Nikes of this world who are doing incredible things that are bringing them into the global economy, whilst at the same time making sure that their fellow men and women are employed and that the children in those households get educated because their parents are earning adequate income. So I invite you to explore the opportunities. When you go to Tanzania, listen carefully, because I'm sure you will hear of the various openings that there will be for you to get involved in something that will do good for the continent, for the people, and for yourselves. Thank you very much.
In my short meeting yesterday with the women's group, I'm happy to announce that they're starting a women in business group. And you see, one of the challenges we face sharing with you here is that we have to share on a broad table. In other words, there are people here who are employees, there are people here who are employers of labor, there are people here are business people, there are people here are teachers. And so when we do the real success seminars in this particular method, we can't be specific, we can't drill down. But this women's group is going to drill down, women in business. Listen, my son, I had a meeting with my sons yesterday because they've been wanting to sponsor a Sundance type film festival here. They've been wanting to support some up-and-coming Nigerian filmmakers. And I called them yesterday and I said, the bottom line, Adam, Edward, is this people we want to help must be able to earn money in dollars. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. And that's where we're going. I don't know if you get the point I'm making. If we're going to depend on Naira, it's 800 and something now to dollar. I believe it will come down, in my own personal opinion. That's my opinion, but I don't have any parameters to tell you when it will come down or if it will even come down. But I believe it will. But the point I'm trying to make is whether it's 800 or 900, if I'm earning in dollars, I don't care. Am I making sense? Are you here? And so I want to now, this is Okonjo-Iweala. I don't know if she's a Christian or she's a Catholic of sorts. I don't know whether she's born again and all that, but you've heard her perspective. Now we're going to go back to listen to a woman called Landa Cobb. We've watched her before. And I want you to listen for the parallels between what both of them are saying. Because Landa is going to approach it from a kingdom perspective. Now Landa talks a lot and talks about things that are incidental when she's speaking, but are are you listening to me? My slides are on the side, but unfortunately, the way I designed the slides are to come after the video and the timing is on it. So we're going to watch like 8 minutes and I'm going to come back and let's discuss what she said for those first 8 minutes. Is that okay? Is that okay? But remember, now why am I saying this? I spoke to you about revelation this morning. If you understand that one of the things God wants you to do is create jobs, it will change the dynamics of how you run your business. I don't know if you get the point I'm making. Because creating jobs is a very important part of God's plan. Am I making sense? And he blesses people who bless other people because we were blessed to be a blessing. Let's listen to Landa Cobb.
Authority and changing our perception. God has given us the perfect storm in an age. We're in the middle of a climate storm that's going to change all of our climates and weather. We're in the midst of an economic storm that is making everything shift. And whenever the economy shifts, the political status quo shifts. And we either see that, as Joe said, as dark and, oh my goodness, this is the end, or we see it as the hand of God shaking everything that can be shaken so that we can bring the influence of the kingdom of God into that season. And we see that based on what's going on inside. But my title this morning is The Power of One. I think Joe was a great example of that and gave us other examples of that. The kingdom of God builds through you. The smallest unit of authority and power in the kingdom of God is the individual. It works through you because it's in you, or it doesn't work at all. Okay, I want to read from 1 Corinthians 2. Just a few verses here. 1 Corinthians 2, verse 6. Yet among the mature we do impart wisdom, although it is not a wisdom of this age, or of the rulers of this age, who are doomed to pass away. But we impart a secret and a hidden wisdom of God, which God decreed before the ages of our glory. None of the rulers of this age understood this. For if they had, they would have not crucified the Lord of glory. But it is written, what no eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor the heart of man imagined, what God has prepared for those who love him. These things God has revealed to us through the Spirit. For the Spirit searches everything, even the depths of God. For who knows a person's thought except the spirit of that person, which is in him? So also, no one comprehends the thoughts of God except the Spirit of God. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God, that we might understand the things freely given to us by God, and impart this in words, not taught by human wisdom, but taught by the Spirit, interpreting spiritual truths for those who are spiritual. Wow. I'm talking to you about secret wisdom. Things not understood by this world. And if your mind has been discipled by the thinking of the world, you will have the influence of the age. You cannot possibly have the thinking of the world and the influence of the kingdom. And so the mystery, this great mystery that was revealed after Christ is gone with the coming of the Holy Spirit, is that literally we have access to the mind of Christ about everything. I want you to take the Spirit of God not only into the office to be sensitive to those who work next to you and how you can minister to them. I want you to take the Spirit of God to the front page of the newspaper and ask the Spirit of God, does he agree with what's being written? And if not, what is his perspective on this issue? I want you to take the Spirit of God when you watch television and say, okay, that's the thinking of the age, Lord. What is your thinking? I want you in the Spirit of the Lord to become something other than reactionary. We don't believe this. Well, what do you believe? We don't like this. Fine. What do you want? You see, the Spirit of God doesn't just take away, doesn't just criticize the world. The Spirit of God gives us secret wisdom, secret understanding. And that understanding gives us hope, and it changes our perspective of the world we live in. We are not the Jews in Israel. We are the believers in Babylon. Get over it. Our hope and our destiny is not in our nation. We have a new citizenship. We have a new passport. We have a new name. I'm dying to know what my name is. I'm sure it'll be good because God chose it. And we are not aligned with the customs and the traditions of the cultures and the age and the world that surround us. We have a completely different perspective on these issues. We don't have only a position on gay marriage, we have a position on marriage, period. And we would be happy if just the Christians of the world would live by God's moral standard in their marriage. And if we Christians cannot live by God's moral standard in our marriage, how do we expect to have influence outside of our own lives? We are the Jews in Babylon. We don't expect to be in control. We expect to serve. We expect to be light in the midst of the darkness. We're not afraid of darkness. We actually enjoy darkness because we look our best. When I was going to Christian schools, I looked like a terrible rebel. But as soon as I went to a state university, I knew I didn't even want to be near that bad. I discovered I had values and virtue I never knew of. Okay, so literally we don't worry when things get dark because those are the easiest times for light to function. We go, praise God, it's all falling apart. Yippee, they don't know what to do in the whole Middle East. Oh, America's being humbled. Yippee! I was hard on you as Britons last night, so I have to give equal opportunity to my own country. They don't invite me to come speak, so you're very brave. Okay, so we are here to bless the nations. We are here to bless the Babylonians. We have already won our victory. We already have our future in Christ. We are ambassadors of a culture and a lifestyle that is already secured for us forever. We can never be marginalized. We can only believe we're marginalized. The problem is not the lost. The problem is always the quality of the light. Our brief, then, is to bless the Babylonians by pursuing God's agenda. God's agenda for business.
I'm happy they ran the slides side by side, so I don't have to come back and do it. But this is how I did it the first time I did it. Was the network service. But let's go backwards. Before I allow you to say anything, there's a particular impression that we've had that what we're going through in Nigeria right now is new. That's not. If you go through history, we repeat patterns in this country. A few months ago, I was watching a documentary made by somebody from the UK about how the market women went on riot, and the British people took out their guns and they shot them. This was like 1958, 1954. Am I making sense? Don't think that anything in the world has changed or you have it worse than somebody else. Don't ever think that way, because it will make you a victim. And listen to what she says. The problem is the quality of what we're producing. You got something from that first part, right? She's just about to talk about the agenda of God in business. But I wanted you to hear all that part, because can you take this slide back a little bit? Yeah, go back, just go back. Yeah, go back a little bit. Yeah. The Spirit of God does not criticize the world. We are very good at that. And then what happens when we read the newspaper? We echo what unbelievers are saying rather than finding out from what God is saying and present that to the world. Obi is this, you to say yes. Tinubu is this, you to say yes. You never spend enough time to say, okay, God, what are you saying about this situation? Because of time, let's move on. Does anybody want to say anything? Does anybody want to say anything about the first part we've listened to? Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's go on.
Is this. 3 things. Reveal the goodness of God. And goodness in Hebrew is always material. In Hebrew, you would not talk about this as a good group, because human beings always have value. Good is something you apply to something that may or may not have value. So this is a good watch. Compared to great watches, it's kind of low end of the of great watches. Very, very high end of everyday watches. Not Longines, a little higher, but not exactly Rolex yet, but that's sort of the low end too. Are you with me? And you can measure the quality of a watch on the watch industry. And you can say, out of 10, it's a 5 or a 6 or a 10, because it's a material object. Goodness is a material quality, and the goodness of God is revealed in our houses, in our transportation, in our healthcare, in our food, in our clothing, in the quality of our lives. Business reveals, or doesn't, the goodness of God. And the goodness of God is seen in the material quality of the lives we live. The agenda of business from God's design is through creating quality of life. We're to reveal the goodness of God by creating quality of life. And so we begin the business pursuit by asking, where is quality of life missing? Business is not about getting your piece of the cell phone pie. I mean, you can. It's not immoral to go out and try to get your share of the cell phone pie, but why bother? There are so many other things to do. See? You can make money at that, and that's fine. It's not wrong. It's not immoral. It's not strategic. Where is there a lack of quality of life that no one is addressing? Where is something missing? And who is it missing for? And how can we begin to design a business solution that is sustainable, creates jobs, and meets that quality need? God's agenda for business is achieved by developing goods and services and jobs. You already know that because that's what we teach in business school. That's where business school and the truth of God meets. We create goods and services. Now, that's the part we teach. God adds a third, and jobs. Okay, so we're not content only to create a business that makes money. That's a good thing. We want to create a business that meets a need where quality of life is deficient, that creates jobs where jobs are deficient. I'm going to give you some examples at the end, but I want to lay the principles down first. And so if there are no quality of life needs in your area, then you look for the parts of the world where there are. If everyone has everything they need, then you move beyond the borders because they have a quality of life and say, okay, where are people missing things that we could create a business solution to provide? And there's no end to that market. No end. Okay, the biblical view of wealth, as I mentioned last night, is two things create wealth: people and land. Everything else is money, which may go up or down. But people and land are forever the resources of the kingdom. You cannot increase the land, so it cannot decrease in value. You cannot work the land without people, and so the more people you have, the better you can work the land. All right, if you have bought the idea that population is the problem and that we're running out of land on planet Earth, you are absolutely dead in the water for influencing the 21st century. You have bought the thinking of the age, and you might as well give up on kingdom building now. Why? Because you are working with the lies of the enemy. And you say, well, I haven't seen those statistics. Well, you're not looking for them because you're accepting what the front page says. See, it's absolutely absurd. We haven't even mapped the center part of Borneo. Nobody lives 100 miles north of the border, American border in Canada. Russia has a severe lack of population and has land that runs from Europe all the way to China. Africa is underpopulated. It's absurd, but we bought the lie. Why? Because we bought limited resources, when that's even bad physics today. Okay, and number three, the biblical view is the future's in the poor. Jesus says this, blessed are the poor. Why? Because when everything's shaken, they have nothing to lose. Things can only get better for them. By the way, I have to tell you about a story about my laugh. I was in Greece many years ago, and I was meeting with a famous nightclub owner trying to get his club to do evangelistic work. And he said to me, I never heard a Christian laugh like that. And I said, well, sir, perhaps you'd never met a Christian. Okay, so the future is in the poor, and aren't we lucky because in our age, that's also where the population is. Wow. Empowerment of people is always the kingdom strategy. Where are people disempowered? Well, the future economy is there and in empowering them, exactly what Joe's been talking about. And there are unlimited potential for that. Now, if you look at empowering Europe, but you are not the center of the world's economy anymore, and you will not be in your lifetime or in this age. That doesn't make you bad. It makes you small. It makes you dependent on the world outside of yourself. And this is a good thing. We have another opportunity to demonstrate the wisdom of God that has built us in history for the rest of the world. And our future is in doing that, not in holding on to what we have. Okay, the biblical perspective then that the holy storm is shaking is unlimited resources. We can solve every problem, every food problem, every energy problem, every space problem, meaning land, every water problem. There are no unsolvable material world issues from God's perspective. We don't find the solutions because we aren't expecting to find them. As soon as we begin to look and we assume the land will produce what the people need, the population can never be out of control because God is behind every birth child. He's not necessarily behind the sex, but he loves that baby. You can't have a baby God doesn't want. Population growth is part of God's strategy for healing the world. Always, God said, multiply, multiply, multiply. And what does the age say? Stop it, stop it, stop it. So Europe is even smaller than it should be. And it's by your own choices. Global warming is the next economic boom. I'm telling you the truth. And I'm not the only one in the world that knows this. Even some non-Christians have gotten this secret wisdom somewhere. Mr. Putin is one of them. I don't know who's advising him, but he has secret information. See, global warming is the next economic boom. Populations are going to move, so labor forces are going to be available in new places. Land that's been unusable is going to be usable. Underground resources that have been unreachable or too expensive to reach are going to be reachable. Siberia is going to be livable. Northern Canada is going to be the best property you can possibly buy. You may grow wine again in England if you have enough space to do that. God's perspective is land belongs to the people. And you will, if you trace economic development, you will find quality of life follows private land ownership. And in countries where there is no private ownership of land, you will find the most indentured poverty. And in lands where there is the greatest percentage of private ownership of land, you will find the highest quality of life in the world. And so we have to realize there is a basic economic injustice that God speaks about from Genesis chapter 1 all the way through Revelation, and that is land. And land, by God's definition, by God's design, belongs to the people, not to the few, to the many. The greatest economic tyranny comes when the land is owned by the few. And by the way, it goes hand in hand with political tyranny. 95% of Korea, South Korea, is owned by 5 or 6 or 7 companies. One of whom is Samsung, which would explain why Apple's got a bit of a problem. Not exactly a level playing field. 90% of Mexico is owned by 10% of the population. The vast majority of land in Africa is owned by the governments or by tribal chiefs. Arkansas, you know that funny state in America, Arkansas? Arkansas, the joke of America for its poverty and sometimes presidents. 95% of Arkansas is owned by the United States government. How'd that happen? I don't know. I think it was before Mr. Clinton, so this is one thing we won't blame on him. Banking, God's perspective is that banking can be reinvented. We can do it a whole new way. Let the world do banking the way they do banking. Let us do banking the way God does banking. And my greatest desire is for you to start doing your homework. I brought enough of these little bookmarks for everybody to have one. They're downstairs. Just grab one off the table. You can there's probably enough to grab 3 or 4 if you want to spread them around. I want you to get a Bible and at least a green pencil for economics. And I want you to start coloring in Genesis and go through the Bible. And when you end up, you will be an expert at economics and doing business from God's perspective. You will be irreversibly changed in your thinking. You will understand who to lend, why to lend, and how to lend. and what to lend for. You will understand the issue of land. You will understand the rights of the owner and the rights of the worker. You will understand that empowerment through employment is God's strategy for economic development, and aid will always destroy because it makes dependent. Free, no charge. God's perspective is social capitalism. We do not support capitalism if we are biblical, as practiced in the 21st century, which is just another way of saying I have the right to be as greedy as I want to be and to destroy as many people in the process of being greedy as I want to. God is for private ownership. God is for a free market, because a free market and private ownership empowers the individual. But when the individual, empowered by a free market and the right to own, begins to destroy all the others in their scope, then their freedom is being abused, and it's called tyranny. We do not support this kind of capitalism. We support capitalism that is committed to eliminating poverty in our communities and making sure a basic quality of life is available to all through employment and work. Maybe, maybe not. God's perspective is that immigration has been his strategy from Genesis chapter 3. It's a good thing. People flee where there is no quality of life to where there is a quality of life, and we should be pleased that we have been chosen. It is testimony that some of the principles of God are at work in our culture. And the way we receive and bring them into that process and establish them will determine whether in the future those values are at work in our culture. But if our reception of immigrants is not with God's values, then we are losing ground in God's values because we are choosing a strategy that is not of God. We can immigrate too. In fact, that's what made Australia great. That's what made New Zealand great. You know, in our forefathers, they didn't think that immigration was just to where they lived. They thought they could go live somewhere else and create a great quality of life. And you know what? They did it. Can you imagine if every aborted European had not been aborted but had lived and immigrated to Russia? Wow. Can you imagine? Russia would be a different place. You said, oh, that would have been hard. You don't think it was hard to go to Australia in the beginning? You don't think it was hard to go to North America in the beginning? It's always been hard to create a future. It's always been dangerous. Okay, let me give you a list of stories, as many as I can fit in the time I have. The power of one. These are stories of the power of one. Joe has just given us his testimony and the testimony of others. I was with one business leader who said, I have several presidents from East Africa who are coming together. They grow coffee in these countries, and there are 800,000 African families that grow this coffee. We have the resources from another country in the world to get behind these presidents and these coffee growers and brand this coffee internationally. Would you come with us, they said to me, to these meetings? I said, well, I have to know something first. Who owns the land on which the coffee is grown? This is a very biblical question. They said, well, of course it belongs to the tribes. And I said, well, if you don't influence land ownership change there, I can tell you, you will brand the coffee and it will make a ton of money because it's great coffee and the world loves coffee. But those farmers' quality of life won't change at all. That money will never touch their lives. It will go into the great abyss of the hole that we don't know where money goes in Africa. I said, so this is a very doable plan for the development of this part of Africa, but you've got to tie this plan with a government farmer influencer cooperative where land transfers over a period of time, either to a cooperative of farmers or to individual farmers. That has to be worked out what is best within the people and the culture. But the land ownership has to be transferred, or all you will do is fund future tyranny. Do you get the difference? Money is not the problem in Africa. Money is not the problem anywhere in the world. The values with which we approach development are the problem. And there are values our development has to produce. And one of those is to push economic power down as far as we can. The Speaker of the House in Sarawak, Borneo, the top of Borneo is Malaysian, the bottom is Indonesian. And in the states, there are 3 states in the north of Borneo, and they are Indian tribes that became, by choice, part of the Malaysian Federation. The Speaker of the House in Borneo, because the tribes own their own land there, came to me and said, does the Bible say anything about land? Well, yeah, it's got a couple of things to say. I have several times colored the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, highlighting in bright green the word land everywhere it appears. And you would begin to think it's a book about land. And I said, Mr. Speaker, you could do this in a word search on your computer. You just put the word land in and you could read every scripture on land and you would already be changed. And he said, well, help me here because the Malaysian government has come to us and said, we would like you to give your tribal lands to the government because you're doing nothing with them. We'll develop them. That will help the people. And the lands will be more productive. He said, should we do this? And I said, well, you can do this. If you do this, you are merging with Malaysia, losing your indigenous and your leverage to influence the country. That's not wrong. That has happened in different points in history, and it's actually been God. The 12 tribes of Israel had to come together and lose their individual identity in order to finally form a state that could be sustainable. Now, that may change later on, but that's where they're at now. So I said, that's not wrong, but it's a very implicative decision because now you have no leverage. But you could reverse this and say, well, we won't sell you the land, we'll lease you the land for 50 or 90 years and we'll provide your development of it. And if we agree, we may come to a sale later on. And if we don't agree, then the land returns to the tribe. I said, that's a more biblical model if the tribe has a future and if you're to have a voice. There's a gentleman in India that looked at Indian population, the poor, and said, what is their greatest need? And their greatest need was pure water. That's the greatest need of all the developing world. All of the poor of the world need clean water. 80% of our diseases are spread through water in the world. And that will probably return to Europe and other places as well in the future. And so a man in India who's a businessman and has a conglomerate of businesses said, okay, the Indian needs pure water and he doesn't have much money. He can spend maybe $10 on a water purifier if it lasts for a year or two. And so then he took a Swiss water purifier that costs $300 and is about this big. It has a porcelain filter and you clean it with a brush. So it's very efficient, but it's big. And he reverse engineered it and he produced ones about this big. And this one cost $300 and this one he could sell for $10 and make a profit. And he's making millions on providing clean water to the Indian population. You see, he reversed the strategy. He didn't say, where is the money? How can I make it and help the poor? He said, where are the poor and what do they need? And how can I make it that employs them? Because he built the factory where the same people are and creates a profit so that I can go on. And his next project was a cell phone. Because Indians need to communicate, but they don't need a camera, they don't need a smartphone, they don't need all the fancy stuff. They just need a phone. And he reverse engineered, came up with a phone that cost $10 to produce because he'd done the market and they could afford $10. And he gives them $10 worth of time because he started a cell phone company at the same time, a cellular company at the same time. And so now he sells his phone for $10. They get $10 worth of free time. And of course, he's making millions and millions and millions. And he built the factory right where the poor people are so they could have more jobs. You get the idea? We do look at the wealthy and say, how can we make money and help the poor? God says, look at the poor and figure out how to create jobs and goods and services for them and make money while you're doing it. I was talking with a group of 8 business people in South Africa. They'd been working on this for a number of years, and they said to me, well, we'd like to tell you our 5-year plan. I said, okay, 5-year plan. What is it? They said, well, we think about 200 businesses. I said, wow, that's impressive. 200 businesses in 5 years. And they said, yes, but we think we can do that. And I said, here's a key question. Again, biblical perspective. How many will you employ? They said, 2,000, 2,500. I said, how many are unemployed in the area you're trying to help? 3 million. Ooh, that's going to take a long time. I said, perhaps, I love England because you tell us which way to look when we step off in the road. It's the most ingenious thing you've come up called you and said, the market's there, the product's there, all I need is a middle person, and you can create 10,000 jobs tomorrow with that? No, you see, he just couldn't see that the future was the poor being the solution for themselves. He couldn't look that direction. And so the economy of the 21st century, when you step off in the road, is just going to run you down with a big red bus. Not because you're bad or awful, but you're looking in the wrong direction. So I saw him recently and I said, did you follow through it? He said, yes, but it was a little disappointing. We only created 3,000 jobs. I said, yeah, but you did that in 12 months. Now find the next thing they need in the townships. And I could tell him what it is because I've actually been there. What was that, Joe? Proximity? Close proximity. Okay. Now my clock keeps going up, or is that how far I'm over? I now seem to be increasing in time, but there's a large red light blinking here. I'm looking the wrong direction, yes. I see, it's over here. All right, thank you for your humble willingness to listen to me. And thank you for getting a hold of God and his word and changing perspective, because we live in the best century the world has known thus far for God and the kingdom and building.
I know it's much. I know it's a lot of stuff. I know me. Okay? But think. Just think. Because we've been doing something for a very long time. Go to Dubai, buy something, bring it back, try to sell it to Pastor Lasokwe. Meanwhile, Pastor Lasokwe can go on Amazon or Konga, on Jumia, and order for the very same thing and get it cheaper delivered to his house. The world has changed. Nobody's saying, what do the population need? I've had to disconnect my DSTV service. It's 28,000 naira a month. For what? I'm not at home. I don't know if you get my point. 28,000, increase the amount of money. I'd rather pay for internet that I can use than a DSTV service. I don't know if you get the point I'm trying to make. How many people can afford it? Yet there are people who are offering services that are costing as little as 2,005, like Netflix, you know what I mean? And all these other people. So people are moving. Once we can solve the cost of internet, you'll be surprised what's going to happen to DSTV. They'll disappear. Do you get what I'm trying to get across to you this morning? Do you get, at least you even get an idea that we're looking in the wrong direction? We think the more sophisticated way. I'll tell you one story and then I'll close. The people who won the Nobel Prize last year, a group of 3 scientists, they were sent to Kenya. No, they weren't sent to Kenya. They went to Kenya to set up a research. And what they wanted to do was say, okay, if we improve the quality of life of people by giving them money so that they can put mosquito nets in their houses, they can buy better food, they can do all the health things, buy, water filters and all that, won't it help? So they began to do a research. They gave a group of them money, told them what to do with the money, another group money, and they began to research for almost a year, taking details of what they were doing. Film the house before, film the house afterwards. And so they were expecting to come back to film the house and have, those chemical-soaked mosquito nets so that mosquito won't bite their children. They were expecting they would buy motorcycles to carry their kids. They got back and they found out that they bought flat-screen television, stereo set, and all the luxuries of life. And so when the researchers came back, they said, are you people mad? They said, no, we too want to enjoy what you are enjoying. We are human beings like you. We want to enjoy. We want to watch television. We want to, you know what I mean? But we think that what they needed was mosquito net. They have needs just like us. Have you wondered why certain phones like Infinix or what do they call it? What are the other phones? What? Techno. You know why they outsell Samsung? Price. A normal Samsung, a good Samsung is about 200,000-300,000. Am I right, sir? You don't know? Pastor Lasokwe. Okay, so who knows? Am I right? It's like 250,000. I'm telling you. Any Samsung that is less than that, they're just deceiving you. Or it's used. But they know that nobody's going to buy the 250,000 because the population doesn't need it. So Infinix copies them. And then most of you will be surprised that Hisense and LG are the same company. Hisense is the cheaper version. His wife, if they put pampers on their children, because the child will sleep through the night and the man can go back and have sex with his wife. And the pampers started selling like no man's business because the population knew what they were looking for. That's why we are here. We are here to be a blessing to the world. But we are competing with the world. We're not sitting down and saying, God, show me, what do they need? How can I produce it? How can I bring it down? This guy in Khan Academy has now created an AI to educate children. My God, a Nigerian child of the world, all he needs is internet and a laptop. And you watch. You just watch how the world, how people are going to just take that thing and go. And people are going to, and then the beauty of computers is that they don't discriminate. They don't care whether you are black, blue, ugly, fine. They don't care. They do what you tell them. Am I right? I want to beg you. I know some of the things I bring are a little bit tough. We have to improve the quality of life of our people with our goods and our services. We can't produce what unbelievers are doing, which is taking advantage of people. We have to create jobs. Every time I have an argument with a tax officer who comes here to harass me, I always tell them, if you shut us down, you're not shutting me down. You're shutting 10, 12, 15 families down. Because they are my responsibility. And I'm not saying create jobs where you can use computers. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we need to create jobs that will create those computers. Am I making sense? We need to create jobs that will make people more efficient. One of the most things they're talking about around Dangote's refinery right now is that there's a certain level of job classification that has been created by the factory that he has built. There's nothing like that in Nigeria. Never before. That level of debt. Now, people are going to be trained and going to have work for the rest of their life. I was talking to Mrs. Oluni. When I was in England many years ago, I took my son, Adam, my two sons, to go and watch a play with their mom called The Lion King on stage. That thing cost us, I think it was about £42 per person. By the time you add popcorn and ice cream, we're talking about 50 past what I'm talking about, £60. We finished watching the play and we came out. Edward says he wants to go back again. And I said, at £60, you ain't going nowhere. You know, we had to beg him. You know what I mean? Not to cry. He enjoyed the play so much. 10 years later, I took a drummer to go and watch the play. The boy that acted the small boy had grown up and was playing a different role. Some people are in that role for 20 years, get paid at the end of the month from acting a play every single day on the stage. The jobs to be created. People need jobs. People think jobs are always, go to the office. No, they just get up in the morning, they rehearse, they present. And every night, crowds are coming. To buy that ticket, most of the tickets are sold out. Especially weekends, they're sold out. Go to South Africa, see what they're doing with arts. There's a particular movement called Hear Word. Have you heard about them? Those girls that go around, these women that go around acting plays about women's suffrage. Amazing group of people. There's a girl based in UI. We've been talking to her to see whether we can make a local production of it. But believe me, let me come to where I'm going with all this. That's why I said this morning, if God reveals something to you, it means you have the capacity to do it. Stop looking at those of us who are employing people as stupid. I don't know if you get the point I'm making. Stop thinking that I bought something from Dubai and I sold it. You're not adding any value to the country. Even if you buy something from Dubai, add value. I don't know if you get the point I'm making. Have you noticed something most of you won't know this because unless you buy on Amazon. I want to buy this camera. The camera is $1,000, $1,500. You will see somebody who will say, for this camera at $1,000 on his Amazon website, he will say, when you buy this camera, he will give you a bag, he will give you a lens cleaner, he will give you all this access. What he's trying to do is trying to get you to buy from him by adding value. I don't know if you get the point he's making. He's going to add accessories that he bought cheaply somewhere. Maybe the accessory is not $20, but he's using it to tempt you. That's how you add value to stuff. You don't just bring in something and then you sell it. You add a local value. This guy in Oshogbo, sorry, not Oshogbo, I can't remember. We went to visit his gari making plant. When we got there, huge gari baking plant. All the gari they were producing, they had already sold. But there were these women who were helping him process gari with, you know what I mean? He just employs them, not because he needs them, just to give them a job to do. So they come every morning, process their own tiny little gari, and they add it to the bunch. Because the machines are doing better than the women. I don't know if you get the point I'm making. But then, sooner or later, those people know that those women are going out of business. So they have to start training them on how to use the machines. Let's bow our heads. Unless somebody has something to say. That's why I said, God, give me a revelation. Reveal what you want me to do. Reveal your plans and your purposes. Reveal your strategies. Don't let me be ignorant. I am the light. I think it was Pastor Mishore a few days ago who was saying to us, and he was very careful to say it. He says, you were darkness. He didn't say you were in darkness. He says, you were darkness. And then he goes on and says, now you are light. He didn't say, now you are in light. No, he says, you were darkness. Now, light. And the same Bible tells you, nobody takes a lamp or a bushel and covers it up. No, he puts it where it can light everybody. You are light. Who are you lightening up? You say, I'm lighting up in church. No, who are you lighting up in your business?
Wow, that was a lot to take in. Was it?
It was indeed. It was a whole lot to take in.
Pastor Francis decided to take us through the video method this time around. And the first video showed us, or spoke to us more on empowering women and African business in general. And the second one was a video by Landa Cope. And she said something, when you're in the dark, I think that's the best time for light to rejoice, because that's the best time you would shine. That was, because when we're in the dark, or when we're like going through dark times, we tend to complain, groan, all of that. But then she made us see that when you're in the dark, or when you're in dark, that is when you should rejoice. That is when you should even shine. So, Mr. Kayode, can you just give us your take?
Okay, so the beautiful thing about the message was that, especially with the video from Landa Cope, and from the videos we saw, was that they were not just vague about the ideas. They had examples to show us. They showed us examples, real life examples of people who tried to imbibe kingdom principle into their business. And of course, we have now learned today, on a broader perspective, that the essence of the business is to be able to find jobs for people, to create a platform where people from different family and households will be able to get employed and use the resources they have from that employment to also sustain and live a life of quality, which also means that it's not just about hearing it. With the examples that have given us, it's for us to take it into our different homes, thinking, be mindful, and also if you have a business, what are you going to do differently from here, especially when it pertains to employment of people. We have people also who are employers of labor, but how well do they treat those ones? How do they even help those ones to become productive for themselves? And of course, even if you're an employee working for someone, I think it speaks to different sides also. What value are you contributing to that business to grow, so that even when you leave from there on, you can also take the knowledge from there, build a platform of your own that will help people get employed. Like I said, the overall beautiful thing about this message for me and from the videos were the examples they gave us and give real life illustration of how we can apply Bible and kingdom principles into our business, understanding, especially the one from Landa Cope, where she gave an illustration and went in depth into the idea of land, saying that land must be private ownership as against being government owning it, showing us an example of countries where government have owned it and people live in poverty. But how can we help people till the land and help people at the place of their need? That's another very key important thing. Meeting people at the point of their need. It's not just to say have this product for you. It's to say what is it that you need more. So let me create that for you. Let me create a platform for you where you also can be employed and employ other people on that one, and you've eradicated poverty gradually by a gradual process. I mean.
So I asked this question last week. Do you know God's purpose for your business? What does the scripture say about your business? I would like us to do our own research, because we just can't keep working like unbelievers. Is that right?
Yeah.
We should search the scriptures and work according to his will. Thank you so much for joining us for the Real Success Seminar. The network service will be starting in a few minutes, and I would love to see you there. Don't forget, you can watch all our videos on all our social media platforms.